Somewhere I Belong, Chapter 19, Marco Polo. The group stopped at the next checkpoint, which was a large hollowed-out cave. Cave. The man asked with a gulp. Yeah, what's up? Dash asked as she looked at the human. Nothing. Isaac got a fire going while the other mares set up their tents. The man got to his feet and let out a sigh. I'm going for a walk, he said to the group. The mares nodded as the man walked past them with his bow and quiver and made his way out into the open air. He walked a good 300 feet away from the camp and started shooting the arrows at a nearby log. The man heard something snap a twig behind him. Isaac turned with his weapon drawn to see the yellow mare with a frightened look on her face. Jesus, Shy, you can't sneak up on a guy with his weapon drawn, he said as he lowered the bow. I'm sorry, she said as she lowered her head. It's fine. Did you need something? He asked. I was just wondering what you were doing, she asked in a timid tone. Practicing with my bow, he said as he held up the weapon. Want to try? Oh, I don't know, she said with a gulp. I guess I could give it a shot, she said as she walked beside the human. Isaac handed her the bow. The mare held the bow in her left hand as she pulled the arrow back with her right. Her left hand was shaking in anxiety. Isaac put his hand on hers to help steady the bow, causing the yellow mare to blush. Just pull the arrow back and take a moment to focus, he said in a hushed tone. The mare nodded and let out a sigh. She released the arrow, which hit the center of the target. The man looked at the mare in surprise. You're a natural, he said with a smile. Fluttershy smiled at his kind words. She pulled back another arrow and let it fly. The arrow didn't only hit the center of the target, but split the other one right down the middle. I'm so sorry, Isaac. I didn't mean to do that, she said in a sad-filled tone. Don't be. That was awesome, he said as he approached the target. How did you do that? I don't know. You're not mad? No, I've got other arrows back at my house, he said with a nod. Where did you get this thing? Fluttershy asked. My grandpa got it for me when I was 15, he said as he retrieved the arrows. Oh, that's nice, she said with a smile. The two made their way back to camp. As they made their way back, Isaac noticed that Fluttershy kept averting her eyes as Isaac looked back at her. The man pushed the thought out of his mind as they entered the cave. Isaac felt a small wave of fear creep over him as he entered the dark place. Isaac, are you okay? Fluttershy asked. Yeah, it's just been a long day, he said as he walked over to his tent and set his bow down. The man joined the other mares around the fire and sat down as he opened a leather-bound book. He withdrew a small pencil and started to write in the book. What's that? Twilight asked. Just a journal I keep, he said in a flat tone. Can I see it? She asked. No, Isaac said as he put the book away. The man looked around the cave as he ate. A long silence fell over the group as they ate until AJ broke the silence. So, Isaac, who taught you so much about camping? The farmer asked. My dad, my grandpa, and my uncle, he said as he sipped his water. They taught me how to survive, even if their methods were extreme, he said in a flat tone. I hunted, I tracked, and I made my way out of the woods, he said with a sigh. If memory serves, I came out by a small town and I managed to find a nearby army base, and they called my folks, he said with a sigh. So you had a military upbringing? Twilight asked. Yeah, when your dad's in the armed forces, you get moved around a lot, he said as he sat back. How often did you move? Dash asked. Longest place I stayed was for about 2 years. That was when I was 12. 2 years? Twilight said in surprise. So how did you make friends? Pinky asked. I made a few close friends when I was a kid, and closer friends when I served in the Marines, he said with a sigh. How many friends? Applejack asked. I guess my squad that I was stuck with, he said with a laugh. We were more like family than teammates, he said with a smile. Wait, when you first came here, you said that you barely talked to anyone, Twilight said. Yeah, what's your point? He asked. Why didn't you talk to them when you got out of the service? The man bit his lip at the next part. The dead aren't much for conversation, he said in a flat tone. Twilight held her head in shame. A long silence fell between the group of friends. I'm sorry, I didn't... She stopped as Isaac raised his hand. It's fine. It's in the past now, he said as he got up. It's supposed to get cold tonight, Dash said. The man waved as he walked back over to his tent. Isaac laid on top of his sleeping bag and let out a sigh as he yawned. The man felt sleep take him. An hour later, he heard Fluttershy enter the tent and crawl into her sleeping bag next to him. As the man tried to fall asleep, he heard a faint sneeze come from the yellow mare. You okay, Fluttershy? He asked. Yeah, I'm fine, she said as the man felt a shiver come from her body. Are you cold? He asked in a concerned tone. No, I'm fine. Isaac could see his breath outside the sleeping bag and hear her teeth chattering. No, you're not. If you get too cold, then you'll get sick, he said with a sigh. Isaac slipped out of his sleeping bag and felt the cold air bite at his skin. Must be 40 degrees here, he said as he rubbed his arms. Hang on, I have an idea. Get out of your sleeping bag for a second. What? I could zip our sleeping bags together, and our combined body heat will be enough to keep us both warm for the night, he said as they both blushed. If you don't want that, then... all right, she said with a gulp. You sure? Yeah, it's only for one night anyway, she said as she got out of her bag. Isaac turned on his flashlight and saw that the yellow mare was wearing a tight green shirt that seemed to be a size too small for her. The mare was also wearing a pair of yellow short shorts. The man gulped and lowered his head as he zipped the two bags together. Isaac held the enlarged opening. Fluttershy got inside, trying desperately to hide her blush as the man faced the opposite direction from the mare. Fluttershy gulped as she felt her wings starting to extend. She faced the man's back and moved closer to him, allowing her wings the room they needed. The mare managed to control her wings and eventually drift off to sleep. The human woke up early in the morning to see the yellow mare sleeping next to him, with her mane over her face. The man gently pushed the strands of pink hair out of her face before discreetly sliding out of the bag and getting his shoes on. The man noticed that none of the other mares were up and decided to go for a walk. The man walked down one of the paths and found what looked like a stream bed. He crouched down and scooped up a handful of water. As he splashed the cold water on his face, he felt as though he was being watched. Isaac slowly stood up and looked around his surroundings. The human felt the hairs on the back of his neck rise. He looked to his right to see a large black wolf with bright red eyes glaring at him with a malicious stare. Isaac's eyes shrank as he saw that the wolf was at least 5 feet long and looked like it weighed over 100 pounds. Its teeth were bigger than any other wolf he'd seen. The man slowly reached for his knife, only to have the beast run at him with lightning speed. Isaac pulled his knife out just in time to dodge and slash across the side of its body. The man managed to avoid the attack and got in a defensive position. The two charged at one another, the wolf baring its teeth and the man tightening his grip on the knife's handle. The human managed to slash the beast a few more times, making blood spill on his body. The wolf swiped the man's hand, which made him cry in pain, and dropped the knife. Before the man could react, the wolf was on top of him. The beast knocked the knife away with its paw and tried to bite the man's neck. Isaac's hand shot out and grabbed the wolf's jaw and snout. He could smell the beast's vile breath breathing on him. The beast was obviously stronger than he was and was starting to overpower him. The man gathered his strength and gave a sharp twist. The human heard a snap come from the wolf's neck, and the beast's body fell limp. Isaac pushed the wolf's body off of him and got to his feet. Isaac took a moment to collect himself before walking over to his knife and putting it in the sheath. The man walked over to the brook and looked at himself in the water's reflection. He quickly washed the blood off of his face and hands. He heard a noise come from behind him. He turned around to see that the wolf was cloaked in shadow and was more menacing looking than before. The beast howled and charged at the man. The wolf jumped, aiming for its prey's neck. Isaac quickly withdrew his knife and ducked to the left. The wolf bit down hard on the human's shoulder and felt its blood fill its mouth. Isaac cried out in pain as he slammed the blade into the wolf's skull. The beast felt its life leave its body. The man pried the beast's jaw open and released his arm. Isaac grunted in pain and pulled out his knife. He stabbed the beast 3 more times, just to make sure it was dead. The man looked at the beast's coat, which was jet black. The man saw the shadowy aura around the body leave and fly back into the jungle. The man let out a sigh and looked down at the beast. He walked over to it and saw that its eyes shifted from a dark red to a light blue, and its coat was pristine white. The man let out a sigh and sat down next to the wolf. He patted it on the head and closed its eyes. Isaac got to his feet and made his way back towards the camp. As he came into view, he saw Twilight taking down her and Pinky's tent. "Hey, Isaac, where did—" The mare stopped as she saw the man's bleeding shoulder. "Oh, my Celestia, what happened?" she yelled as the other mares ran towards him. "Wolf attacked me," he said as he sat down. The man removed his shirt as Twilight's horn and hands glowed. "I'm fine," he said in a flat tone. The mare watched as the bite marks started to heal on their own. "What wolf got you?" Applejack asked. "Follow me and you can analyze it," he said as he got up. "Are you okay to walk?" Twilight asked. "Yeah, I've been through worse," he said as he walked back towards the brook. The white wolf's body laid there motionless. Fluttershy walked over and inspected the body. So what is it? It's a direwolf, Fluttershy said as the mares gasped. What? Direwolves are extremely rare and are considered one of the most dangerous animals in Equestria, Twilight clarified. Really? Yeah, no one has seen one in over 10 years, Dash said. Great, so I just killed an endangered species? No, they're just not native to Equestria. My brother sees them all the time in the Crystal Empire because of the colder temperatures, Twilight said with a sigh.